I never thought I'd become one of those elderly people you read about in the news, the ones who get taken advantage of by their own family. But here I am, 73 years old, writing this from my new apartment, finally free from the nightmare that my own home became. My name is Walter, and this is the story of how my daughter-in-law, Patricia, nearly destroyed my life while smiling to my face every single day. It started innocently enough 3 years ago. My son Marcus came to visit me one Sunday afternoon, concern etched across his face. He'd always been a good boy, or so I thought, and seeing him worried immediately put me on alert. "Dad, Patricia and I have been talking," he began, settling into the worn leather chair across from me. "We're worried about you living alone. What if something happens? What if you fall? What if you forget to take your medications?" I waved him off. "I'm 70, Marcus, not 90. I still have all my faculties." I know, he said quickly. "But hear me out. What if we moved in with you? The house is big enough. We'd save money on rent, and you'd have family around. It's a win-win." I should have seen it then. The way his eyes darted to the family photos on the wall, to the vintage furniture my late wife Diane had carefully collected over the years, to the crown molding that spoke of a house built when craftsmanship actually meant something. But I was lonely. Diane had been gone for 5 years, and the house did feel too big for one person. "Let me think about it," I told him. A week later, Patricia showed up at my door with a homemade lasagna and that brilliant smile of hers. She was always good at that, making you feel like you were the most important person in the world when she wanted something. Marcus told me what he proposed. She said, setting the dish on my kitchen counter, "I just want you to know, Walter, we wouldn't be doing this if we didn't genuinely care about you, your family, and family takes care of each other." Those words would haunt me later. They moved in 2 months later. For the first 6 months, everything seemed fine. Better than fine, actually. Patricia would cook dinner most nights, and Marcus would help with yard work on weekends. I wasn't foolish enough to let them live rent-free. They contributed $800 a month, which was still far below market rate for the space they occupied. But I started noticing small things. My wallet would be in a different pocket than where I left it. The cash inside would be correct, but the bills would be arranged differently. When I mentioned it to Patricia, she laughed it off. "Walter, you're probably just forgetting. It happens to all of us as we get older." That phrase, "as we get older," started appearing more frequently in her vocabulary, always with that sympathetic head tilt, as if she was being so patient with my declining mental state. The real problem started when I got sick. Last year, I was diagnosed with a degenerative condition affecting my joints and spine. It wasn't life-threatening, but it was painful. The kind of pain that makes you understand why some people can't get out of bed in the morning. My doctor prescribed several medications, pain management pills, anti-inflammatories, and a specialized treatment that cost $430 every month, even with Medicare. I kept my medication money in a designated envelope in my bedroom nightstand drawer. Old-fashioned, I know, but I liked having cash on hand for my prescriptions. I would draw exactly $500 at the beginning of each month from my pension account. The extra $70 covered co-pays for doctor visits. For the first 2 months, everything was fine. Then in December, when I went to get my medication refilled, I opened the envelope and found only $200. I stood there in my bedroom, staring at that envelope, my hands starting to shake, not from my condition, but from a creeping sense of dread. "Marcus," I called out. He appeared in my doorway, PlayStation controller still in hand. "Yeah, Dad." "Did you borrow money from my medication envelope?" His face showed genuine confusion. "What? No. Why would I do that?" "Someone did. There's $300 missing." He frowned, setting down the controller. "Are you sure you put $500 in there? Maybe you miscounted." There was again that subtle suggestion that I was losing it. "I've been handling money for 50 years, Marcus. I didn't miscount." Okay, he said, raising his hands defensively. "I believe you. Maybe you spent it on something and forgot, or maybe you put somewhere else for safekeeping." I wanted to argue, but doubt had already crept in. Had I moved it? I'd been in quite a bit of pain that week. Maybe I had taken some out for something and forgotten. I let it go. January, $300 missing. February, $350 missing. March, $400 missing. By April, I couldn't ignore it anymore. I wasn't losing my mind. Someone was stealing from me. I confronted Patricia this time. Marcus was at work, and I found her in the kitchen, scrolling through her phone while drinking coffee from one of Diane's antique teacups, something that had always bothered me, but I'd never mentioned. Patricia, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. She looked up, all innocent concern. Of course, Walter. What's wrong? Money has been going missing from my medication envelope, hundreds of dollars over the past several months. I watched her face carefully. There was a microsecond, just a flash, of something cold in her eyes before the concerned mask slipped back on. Oh my God, Walter. That's terrible. Have you thought about getting one of those pill organizer services? They could deliver your medications, and you wouldn't have to worry about keeping cash around. It might be safer. That's not the point, Patricia. The point is someone is taking my money. She set down her coffee cup slowly. What are you saying, Walter? I'm saying it's just the three of us in this house, and this money doesn't walk away on its own. Her face hardened. Are you accusing me of stealing from you? I'm asking if you know anything about it. I can't believe this, she said, standing up abruptly. After everything we've done for you, we gave up our own place to move in here and take care of you. We cook for you, clean for you, make sure you're not alone. And this is the thanks we get? Accusations. She stormed out of the kitchen, and I heard her on the phone minutes later, talking to Marcus that evening. He came home early from work, and they both sat me down in my own living room like I was a child who'd misbehaved. Dad, Marcus said, his voice strained, Patricia is really hurt by what you said. We're trying to help you, but you're making it really hard. Someone is stealing from me. I insisted. Or, Patricia interjected, her voice sharp now. You're misplacing things and forgetting. It's a symptom of aging, Walter. Maybe it's time we talk about getting you evaluated by a specialist. The threat was clear. Keep accusing us, and we'll declare you incompetent. I'd back down. What choice did I have? But I'm not stupid, and I'm not senile. I knew what was happening. So I did something I never thought I'd have to do in my own home. I went online and ordered 4 small security cameras. They arrived in unmarked packaging, and I installed them myself over the course of an afternoon when Marcus and Patricia went to visit her mother. One in my bedroom, aimed at the nightstand, one in the hallway outside my room, one in the kitchen, and one in the living room. They were discreet, hidden in plain sight, inside a bookend behind a picture frame, inside a decorative box. The footage uploaded directly to a cloud service that I accessed through an old tablet I kept hidden in my closet. Then I withdrew another $500 and placed it in my medication envelope, and I waited. It took 3 days. I was in the backyard, sitting on the porch and watching the birds at the feeder Diane had insisted we installed 20 years ago, when my tablet pinged with a motion alert from my bedroom camera. With shaking hands, I opened the app. There was Patricia, clear as day, entering my bedroom. She looked around cautiously, then walked straight to my nightstand. She opened the drawer, pulled out the envelope, and counted out $200. She folded the bills carefully and tucked them into her back pocket. Then she placed the envelope back, closed the drawer, and left the room. The whole thing took 45 seconds. I sat there for a long time, just staring at the screen. Part of me had hoped I was wrong. But the evidence was right there, time-stamped and clear. I went back through the previous recordings. Over those 3 days, I watched her enter my room 4 separate times when she thought I was asleep or out of the house. She'd check my wallet, go through my dresser drawers, even look through my desk where I kept important papers. Then I noticed something else in the recordings. In the kitchen camera footage, I caught her slipping pills out of my medication bottles, the expensive ones, and replacing them with what looked like over-the-counter pain relievers from a CVS bottle she quickly tucked back into her purse. She wasn't just stealing my money. She was stealing my actual medication and probably selling it. That's when I knew I had to act. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in my bedroom with the tablet on my lap, watching the footage over and over again. Each time I saw Patricia's hand reaching into that drawer, each time I watched her pocket those bills with such casual efficiency, something inside me broke a little more. This wasn't a desperate act of someone who made a mistake. This was practiced, methodical. She'd been doing this for months, and she'd gotten comfortable with it. But what haunted me most was the medication footage. I kept rewinding to that moment in the kitchen, when she opened my pill bottles and swapped out the contents. I thought about all those mornings when I'd taken my medication, and wondered why the pain wasn't getting better. All those afternoons when I'd sit in the same chair, my joints screaming, thinking maybe the doctor needed to adjust my dosage. I'd been suffering, actually suffering, and she'd known. She'd watched me struggle to get up from this chair, seen me wince when I reached for things, heard me groan when I stood up too quickly, and she'd smiled at me, asked if I needed anything, offered to help, all while she was the one causing it. That's not just theft. That's torture. The next morning, I moved carefully through the house, hyper-aware of every sound. Patricia was in the kitchen making breakfast when I came downstairs. The smell of bacon filled the air. She was making my favorite, like she did every Sunday. "Morning, Walter," she said cheerfully. "Coffee's fresh." I looked at her standing there in her bathrobe, spatula in hand, that warm smile on her face. If I didn't know better, I'd think she actually cared. Maybe that's what made it worse. The performance was so good. "Thanks." I managed, pouring myself a cup. "How'd you sleep? I heard you up late." My hand froze on the coffee pot. Had she heard me watching the footage? Was she testing me? Just had trouble settling down. I said, keeping my voice neutral. "You know how it is. We should talk to your doctor about that," she said, flipping the bacon. "Maybe you need something to help you sleep better." The irony almost made me laugh. She was stealing my pain medication, and now suggesting I needed more pills. But I just nodded and took my coffee to the table. Marcus came down a few minutes later, and we ate breakfast like a normal family. Patricia asked about my week. Marcus talked about a project at work. I pushed food around my plate and wondered how I'd sat at this table for months, eating meals she prepared, thinking these people cared about me. After breakfast, I went back to my room and called the only person I could trust. My nephew David answered on the third ring. "Uncle Walter? Everything okay?" I hadn't called him in probably 2 years. We'd exchanged Christmas cards, the occasional email, but we weren't close. Not anymore. Life gets busy. Family drifts apart. But he was a lawyer, and more importantly, he was family that didn't live under my roof. "David, I need your help with something. Legal help." There was a pause. "What's going on?" I told him everything. The missing money, the confrontations, the gaslighting. And then I told him about the cameras and what I'd found. The silence on the other end stretched so long I thought we'd been disconnected. "Uncle Walter," he finally said, his voice tight with controlled anger. "Are you telling me your daughter-in-law has been stealing your medication and replacing it with fake pills?" "Yes." "While you've been in pain? While you've needed those medications?" "Yes." "And she's been taking your money for months?" "At least 5 months that I can document. Probably longer." I heard him take a deep breath. "Uncle Walter, what she's doing is criminal. Multiple felonies, elder financial exploitation, theft, and prescription drug theft. That last one, that's federal. She could go to prison for years." "I know. Do you want her arrested? Because I can make that happen. Today. Right now. I have contacts in the DA's office. With video evidence like this, they'd have her in custody by tonight." I sat on the edge of my bed, looking out the window at the garden Diane had planted. The roses she'd loved were blooming, even though she wasn't here to see them. "I don't know what I want," I admitted. "I'm angry. God, David, I'm so angry. But Marcus is my son. If I have her arrested, it destroys his life too." "His life is already being destroyed by her," David pointed out. "He just doesn't know it yet. Uncle Walter, from what you're telling me, Marcus is a victim here too. She's manipulated him into thinking you're losing your mind. She's using him as a shield while she robs you blind. But he's been complicit. He's made me doubt myself. Because he's been manipulated. Look, I'm not excusing it. What he's done, dismissing your concerns, gaslighting you even if unintentionally, that's caused you real harm. But I don't think he knows what she's really doing. If he did, do you think he'd be okay with it? I thought about my son, the boy who used to bring me dandelions from the yard, calling them flowers, the teenager who'd stayed up all night with me in the hospital when Diane had her surgery, the man who'd cried at her funeral and held my hand during the burial. No, I said quietly. No, I don't think he'd be okay with it. Then we need to show him. We need to get them both out of your house. And we need to do it in a way that protects you legally and financially. Can you give me 48 hours? What are you going to do? I'm going to build you a case so airtight that Patricia has no choice but to comply with whatever terms we set. And then I'm going to drive up there, and we're going to have a conversation with your son and his wife that they'll never forget. After we hung up, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Hope. Not the naive hope that everything would magically be okay, but the realistic hope that maybe, just maybe, I could get my life back. Those next 2 days were the hardest of my life. Harder than Diane's diagnosis. Harder than her funeral. Harder than any of it. Because at least then I'd been surrounded by people who loved me. Now I was surrounded by people who were using me. I had to act normal. Had to sit across from Patricia at meals and pretend I didn't know what she was doing. Had to watch her go through a routine, the concerned daughter-in-law act, the helpful caregiver performance, knowing it was all a lie. On Monday evening, she made pot roast, another of my favorites. Marcus came home late from work, stressed about a deadline. We ate dinner while he vented about his boss, and Patricia made sympathetic noises, and I cut my meat into smaller pieces because my hands were shaking. "You okay, Dad?" Marcus asked, noticing. "Just a bad pain day," I said. Patricia immediately jumped in. "Did you take your medication this morning, Walter? I can get it for you if you need it." The medication that was half fake pills. The medication she'd stolen and replaced with placebos while I suffered. "I took it," I said. "Maybe we should call your doctor," she pressed. "If it's not working, you might need a higher dose." "I'm fine," I said more sharply than I intended. She exchanged a look with Marcus. That look, the one that said, "See? He's getting more difficult, more confused, more irrational." I excused myself and went to my room. That night, lying in bed, I reviewed the footage again. I'd watched it so many times I could probably recite the timestamps from memory. But I kept watching, because every time doubt crept in, every time I thought maybe I was overreacting, maybe there was some explanation, I needed to see the evidence again. Tuesday was worse. Patricia announced she was going out for lunch with friends, and I knew she was probably a pharmacy somewhere selling my medication. I watched her leave, all smiles and casual waves, and I wanted to scream. Instead, I went to my room and organized everything for David. I downloaded all the footage to a secure drive. I gathered my financial statements, showing the withdrawals I'd made for medication funds. I wrote out a timeline of every incident I could remember, every time she'd gaslit me, every time she made me question my own mind. By the time she came home, bags from an expensive boutique in her hands, I had everything ready. "Shopping therapy," she said, showing me a scarf she'd bought. The girls insisted. You know how it is. I knew exactly how it was. That scarf probably cost $80. Money she'd stolen from me. "That's nice," I said. That night, Marcus asked if we could watch a movie together, like old times. So we sat in the living room, me in my chair, Marcus and Patricia on the couch, and watched some action film I couldn't focus on. All I could think about was that in less than 24 hours, David would be here, and this facade would finally crumble. I wondered if Marcus would hate me. I wondered if he believed the evidence or Patricia's manipulation had sunk in so deep he'd find a way to deny it. I wondered if I was about to lose my son forever. But I also knew I couldn't keep living like this. I couldn't keep being afraid in my own home. I couldn't keep questioning my own sanity. And I couldn't keep letting her get away with hurting me. When I went to bed that night, I barely slept. Every sound in the house made me jump. Every creak of the floorboards made me wonder if Patricia was sneaking into my room again, checking to see if I was really asleep, planning her next theft. Tomorrow, I kept thinking. Tomorrow it ends. David arrived at 2:47 p.m. on Wednesday afternoon. I'd been watching out the window for his car, and I met him at the door before Patricia even knew we had a visitor. "Uncle Walter," he said, pulling me into a brief hug. He looked older than I remembered, more serious. He carried a leather briefcase that seemed to weigh heavily in his hand. We went to the kitchen, and he spread documents across the table. Legal papers, screenshots from the camera footage, financial records. He prepared everything with the precision of someone who'd done this many times before. "This is airtight," he said, pointing to different sections. "This document here outlines every instance of theft we can prove with timestamps. This one details the medication tampering with medical documentation, showing your prescribed treatment. This one is a formal eviction notice. And this 1 inch," he tapped a thicker stack. "This is a criminal complaint, ready to file with the DA's office. You really think we need all this?" "Uncle Walter, I've been a lawyer for 15 years. I've seen cases like this before. The manipulation, the gaslighting, the way they make you doubt yourself, it's a pattern. And the only way to break it is with undeniable evidence and clear consequences. No room for negotiation. No room for her to talk her way out of it. What about Marcus?" "Marcus is going to be devastated," David said bluntly. "There's no way around that. But he needs to see the truth. And he needs to understand that his wife is a criminal who's been victimizing his father. That's not your fault. That's hers." We spent the next hour going over everything. David coached me on what to say and, more importantly, what not to say. "Let me handle the legal aspects," he instructed. "You focus on the emotional truth. Tell Marcus how this has made you feel. Tell him about the pain, the confusion, the fear. That's what he needs to hear from you." At 5:15, Marcus's car pulled into the driveway. Patricia was still out. She'd mentioned going to the grocery store after her afternoon at the gym. Perfect timing, David had said. "Let's talk to Marcus first." But she came home 10 minutes later, bags in hand, and suddenly they were both here and it was time. "Can you both come into the living room?" I asked, my voice steadier than I felt. "David's here. We need to talk about something important." I watched Patricia's face as she saw David sitting on the couch, briefcase beside him. She was good. I had to give her that. Her expression barely changed, just a flicker of curiosity mixed with caution. "What's this about?" she asked, setting her grocery bags on the counter. "Just come sit down," Marcus said, already moving toward the living room. He looked confused but not alarmed. "Not yet." They sat on the couch opposite David and me. Patricia crossed her legs casually, but I noticed her hand grip the armrest tightly. Marcus leaned forward, elbows on his knees, looking between all of us. "Dad, what's going on? Is everything okay?" I opened my mouth to start the speech David and I had practiced, but David held up a hand. "Let me show you something first," he said, pulling out his tablet. He queued up the footage, starting with the most damning clip. Patricia in my bedroom, taking money from my nightstand drawer. He pressed play. The room went silent, except for the sound from the tablet. We watched Patricia enter my room, look around, open the drawer, count out bills, pocket them. The timestamp in the corner showed the date and time clearly. Marcus's face went white. What is this?" David pressed play on another clip. This time, the kitchen footage showing Patricia swapping my medications. "That's not." Patricia started, but David held up his hand again. "Don't," he said simply. His voice was calm, almost gentle, but there was steel underneath. "Don't insult anyone here by lying. We have hours of footage, multiple incidents. It's all documented." Marcus turned to Patricia, his expression a mixture of confusion and dawning horror. "Patricia, what is this? Tell me this isn't what it looks like." She was already crying, tears streaming down her face. It was a good performance. I'd seen her do it before. "I can explain," she said, reaching for Marcus's hand. He pulled away. "Explain what?" he demanded. "Explain why you're stealing from my father. Explain why you're stealing his medication." "We were struggling," she said, her voice breaking. You know we were. The rent here, it's not enough to cover our expenses. We've been drowning in debt, and I didn't know what else to do. So you stole from my father? From a sick old man? Marcus stood up, his voice rising. How much? How much did you take? David answered before Patricia could. Based on your father's records and the footage we have, approximately $4,200 over the past 5 months. That's just what we can document. The actual amount is likely higher. Marcus staggered backward like he'd been physically hit. For $1,200? And that's not the worst part, David continued. He showed Marcus the documentation from my doctor, the prescription records, the specialized medication I was supposed to be taking. She's been stealing his actual medication and replacing it with over-the-counter pills. Your father's been in pain, real debilitating pain, taking fake medication, and thinking his prescription wasn't working. Marcus looked at me, really looked at me, and I saw the moment it clicked. All those times I'd mentioned the pain wasn't getting better. All those mornings I'd struggled to get out of bed. All those days I'd canceled plans because I couldn't handle the discomfort. Dad, he whispered. Oh, God, Dad. She's been selling his medication, David added. Prescription pain medication. That's a federal offense. Patricia was sobbing now, her hands covering her face. I have a problem, she choked out. I'm so sorry, Walter. I'm so sorry. I have a gambling problem, and I didn't know how else to pay off the debts. The people I owe money to, they were threatening me. I was desperate. So you victimized an elderly man, David said flatly. You exploited your father-in-law's trust, stole his money, tampered with his medication, and caused him physical harm, all while living in his house, eating his food, and accepting his generosity. Marcus was crying now, too, but his tears were different. Angry tears. Betrayed tears. You told me he was losing his mind, he said to Patricia. All those times he said money was missing. You convinced me he was getting senile. You made me gaslight my own father. I'm sorry, she kept saying. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't fix this, David said. He opened his briefcase and pulled out the documents. Here's what's going to happen. You have 30 days to vacate this property. You will return the full $4,200 you stole, every penny, by the end of this week. If you fail to comply with either of these conditions, I will file these criminal charges immediately. He placed a criminal complaint on the coffee table. Elder financial abuse, theft, prescription drug fraud. With the evidence we have, the DA will prosecute. You'll go to prison, Ms. Patricia. Minimum sentencing for these charges combined is 3 to 5 years. Patricia's face went from red to white. You can't. I'll pay it back. I'll get the money. Just please don't press charges. That depends entirely on your cooperation, David said. You leave peacefully. You return the money. You never contact Walter again, and we'll consider not filing. But if you refuse, if you fight this, if you try to manipulate Marcus into staying with you or supporting you, I will make it my personal mission to see you behind bars. Do you understand? She nodded, unable to speak. David turned to Marcus. You're not implicated in any of this. The evidence shows you had no knowledge of what was happening. But you do need to think hard about why you were so quick to believe your wife over your father. Why you dismissed his very legitimate concerns and made him doubt his own sanity. Marcus sat down heavily, his head in his hands. Dad, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I should have believed you. I should have listened. I prepared myself for this moment, practiced what I'd say. But now that it was here, the words came from somewhere deeper. You made me question myself, I said quietly. Every time I knew something was wrong, every time I tried to tell you, you made me feel like I was losing my mind. Do you know what that's like? To be in pain, to know something's wrong, and to have your own son tell you it's all in your head. I didn't know, Marcus said, looking up at me with tears streaming down his face. I swear to God, Dad, I didn't know she was doing this. I thought I was protecting her from unfair accusations. I thought I was helping both of you. You were protecting her, I said. Not me. You chose her over me. I'm sorry, he whispered. You're right. I did. And I'll regret that for the rest of my life. Patricia made a move toward Marcus, but he held up a hand. Don't, he said. Don't touch me. Don't talk to me. I can't even look at you right now. David stood up. You have 2 hours to pack a bag and leave this house tonight. Marcus, you can come back tomorrow with me present to get your things. But she leaves now, not tomorrow, not next week, now. Where am I supposed to go? Patricia asked, her voice small. I don't care, I said, and I meant it. You can call your mother. You can call those friends you've been lunching with. You can call whoever you've been gambling with. But you don't stay here another night. She looked at Marcus, pleading with her eyes. He turned away from her. 2 hours, David repeated. If you're not gone, I'm calling the police. Patricia left 90 minutes later with 2 suitcases and whatever fit in her car. She tried to talk to Marcus 3 times, but he wouldn't respond. He just sat on the porch, staring at nothing while she loaded her things. When her car finally pulled away, Marcus came inside. David had left, taking copies of all the documentation with him. It was just me and my son, standing in the living room that suddenly felt enormous. I should go too, Marcus said. I'll find a hotel or something. You can stay tonight, I told him, in the guest room, just tonight. We didn't talk much that evening. What was there to say? He ordered pizza that neither of us ate. We sat in separate rooms, processing what had just happened. Around midnight, I heard him knock on my bedroom door. Come in. He stood in the doorway, looking younger than his 35 years. I know I can't fix this, he said. I know sorry doesn't cover it. But I need you to know that I never, ever wanted to hurt you. I thought I was helping. I really did. I know, I said. Do you, he asked. Because I'm not sure I believe me if I were you. Marcus, I know you didn't steal from me. I know you didn't know what she was doing. But you did hurt me. You made me question my own mind. You made me feel like I was going crazy. And you did it because it was easier than believing your wife might not be who you thought she was. He nodded, tears falling again. I was weak. You were manipulated. But you were also complicit. And you're going to have to figure out how to live with that. Are we going to be okay? He asked. You and me? Eventually. I didn't have an answer for that. Not then. I don't know. I said honestly. I hope so. But I need time. And I need space. And I need to know that you'll never, ever make me doubt myself again. Never, he said. I swear. Never again. He left the next morning. David came by to supervise while Marcus packed his things. They didn't take much. Most of the furniture in their room had been from my house anyway. Marcus wrote down his new address, a friend's place where he'd be staying temporarily, and promised to stay in touch. I walked him to his car. Dad, he said, one hand on the door handle. For what it's worth, I'm divorcing her. I contacted a lawyer this morning. I can't be married to someone who did that to you, who did that to us. That's your decision to make. I told him. I love you, he said. I know I have a terrible way of showing it, but I do. I love you too, I said, because it was true. Even hurt, even angry, even betrayed. He was still my son. He drove away, and I stood in the driveway for a long time after his car disappeared. Patricia returned the money 4 days later. Not to me directly. She had David meet her at a bank where she handed over a cashier's check for $4,200. David called to tell me, and I asked him to deposit it directly into my account. I didn't want to see her. Didn't want to risk her trying to apologize again or manipulate her way back into my life. Marcus filed for divorce within 2 weeks. Apparently, once he started digging into their finances, he discovered the gambling problem was much worse than Patricia had admitted. She'd maxed out 3 credit cards in his name, taken out a personal loan he didn't know about, and had been systematically draining their joint checking account for months. The money she'd stolen from me was just the tip of the iceberg. I felt bad for him, in a way. He'd married someone he thought he knew, and it turned out she'd been lying about almost everything. But I also felt validated. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't senile. I'd been right all along. Marcus and I talked on the phone every week or so. Awkward conversations at first, where we both tried too hard to sound normal. But gradually they got easier. He told me about the divorce proceedings, about the apartment he'd rented, about therapy he'd started going to. The therapist says I have trouble with confrontation. He told me one evening that I'd rather believe a comfortable lie than face an uncomfortable truth. She says that's probably why I was so quick to dismiss your concerns. It was easier to think you were confused than to consider that my wife might be stealing from you. Are you learning anything? I asked. I'm learning that I failed you, he said quietly. Not just in this, but probably in a lot of ways over the years. I got so focused on my own life, my own marriage, my own problems, that I stopped really seeing you. You became more of an idea than a person. The dad who's always fine, always strong, always there. And when you tried to tell me you weren't fine, I couldn't handle it. It was the most honest conversation we'd had in years. Maybe ever. I appreciate you telling me that. I said, I'm trying to do better, he said. I know it doesn't fix anything, but I'm trying. The first few weeks alone in the house were strange. I'd gotten used to the noise, Patricia's morning routine, Marcus watching TV in the evenings, the general sounds of other people living in the space. The silence felt heavy at first, oppressive even, but gradually I started to reclaim the house. I moved things back to where Diane, and I had kept them. I got rid of the cheap throw pillows Patricia had bought, the gaudy picture frames, the kitchen gadgets I never used. I went through every room and made it mine again. I also made changes to protect myself. I kept the security cameras up, all 4 of them, not because I expected anyone else to victimize me, but because I never wanted to doubt my own perception again. When Patricia and Marcus had tried to convince me I was losing my mind, I'd almost believed them. Almost. Those cameras weren't just security devices. They were proof that I could trust myself. I had my medications delivered now, straight from the pharmacy to my door. They came in sealed bags with tamper-evident packaging. I kept them locked in a safe that only I had the combination to. It seemed paranoid, maybe, but after what happened, I wasn't taking chances. I also joined a support group for elderly victims of financial exploitation. It met every other Tuesday at the community center, and I almost didn't go to the first meeting. I told myself I didn't need it, that I'd handled the situation and moved on. But curiosity won out, and I'm glad it did. There were 12 of us at that first meeting, men and women ranging from their 60s to their 90s. And as we went around the circle sharing our stories, I realized something profound. I wasn't alone, not even close. There was Margaret, whose daughter had forged checks from her account for 3 years. Raymond, whose nephew had convinced him to sign over power of attorney, and then emptied his retirement fund. Helen, whose caregiver had been stealing jewelry and pawning it. Linda, whose son-in-law had taken out credit cards in her name. Every story was different, but the pattern was the same. Someone they trusted, someone they loved, someone who was supposed to care for them. And underneath it all, the same manipulation tactics, making them doubt themselves, telling them they were confused, suggesting they were losing their mental faculties. The worst part isn't the money, Margaret said during one meeting. It's the betrayal. It's knowing that someone you love looked at you and saw not a person, but an opportunity. Everyone nodded. We all understood. The group became important to me in ways I hadn't expected. It wasn't just about sharing war stories or commiserating. It was about reclaiming our dignity, our sense of self. We reminded each other that we weren't stupid or senile or weak. We were victims of a specific type of crime, one that targets the vulnerable and exploits trust. And slowly, week by week, we helped each other heal. The first few weeks alone in the house were strange. I'd gotten used to the noise, Patricia's morning routine, Marcus watching TV in the evenings, the general sound of other people living in the space. The silence felt heavy at first, oppressive even, but gradually I started to reclaim the house. I moved things back to where Diane and I had kept them. I got rid of the cheap throw pillows Patricia had bought, the gaudy picture frames, the kitchen gadgets I never used. I went through every room and made it mine again. I also made changes to protect myself. I kept the security cameras up, all 4 of them, not because I expected anyone else to victimize me, but because I never wanted to doubt my own perception again. When Patricia and Marcus had tried to convince me I was losing my mind, I'd almost believed them. Almost. Those cameras weren't just security devices. They were proof that I could trust myself. I had my medications delivered now, straight from the pharmacy to my door. They came in sealed bags with tamper-evident packaging. I kept them locked in a safe that only I had the combination to. It seemed paranoid, maybe, but after what happened, I wasn't taking chances. I also joined a support group for elderly victims of financial exploitation. It met every other Tuesday at the community center, and I almost didn't go to the first meeting. I told myself I didn't need it, that I'd handled the situation and moved on, but curiosity won out, and I'm glad it did. There were 12 of us at that first meeting. Men and women ranging from their 60s to their 90s. And as we went around the circle sharing our stories, I realized something profound. I wasn't alone. Not even close. There was Margaret, whose daughter had forged checks from her account for 3 years. Raymond, whose nephew had convinced him to sign over power of attorney and then emptied his retirement fund. Helen, whose caregiver had been stealing jewelry and pawning it. Linda, whose son-in-law had taken out credit cards in her name. Every story was different, but the pattern was the same. Someone they trusted, someone they loved, someone who was supposed to care for them. And underneath it all, the same manipulation tactics, making them doubt themselves, telling them they were confused, suggesting they were losing their mental faculties. The worst part isn't the money, Margaret said during one meeting. It's the betrayal. It's knowing that someone you love looked at you and saw not a person, but an opportunity. Everyone nodded. We all understood. The group became important to me in ways I hadn't expected. It wasn't just about sharing war stories or commiserating. It was about reclaiming our dignity, our sense of self. We reminded each other that we weren't stupid or senile or weak. We were victims of a specific type of crime, one that targets a vulnerable and exploits trust. And slowly, week by week, we helped each other heal. 3 months after Patricia left, Marcus called me with something in his voice I couldn't quite identify. Not anger, not sadness, something closer to disbelief. Dad, I need to tell you something. About Patricia. Okay, I said, settling into my chair. I've been going through all our financial records for the divorce. Every bank statement, every credit card bill, every receipt I could find. And the gambling wasn't the only thing. She was running scams, Dad. Multiple scams. She'd befriend elderly people at the gym, at the grocery store, at church. She'd gain their trust, offer to help them with errands or shopping, and then she'd steal from them. I felt my stomach drop. How many people? At least 5 that I can document. Maybe more. She'd take cash, jewelry, medications. One woman, Mrs. Rodriguez. Patricia convinced her she needed help organizing her finances. She got access to her bank account and transferred out $8,000 before Mrs. Rodriguez's daughter noticed. My God! None of them pressed charges. They were too embarrassed, too ashamed, or Patricia had convinced them they'd just misplaced things, that they were getting forgetful. Sound familiar? It did. It sounded exactly like what she'd done to me. There's more, Marcus continued. Remember how she always said she was on lunch with friends? Or shopping with the girls? Yes. She was at casinos, not just local ones. She'd drive hours to get to them. She had a serious problem. Dad. And she was funding it by victimizing elderly people. You, me, complete strangers. Anyone she could exploit. I sat there absorbing this information. Part of me wanted to feel vindicated. See, it wasn't just me, it wasn't in my head, but mostly I just felt sad. Sad for all those other victims. Sad for Marcus, discovering the woman he'd married was essentially a con artist. Sad for the whole situation. Why are you telling me this? I asked, because I need you to know how sorry I am, Marcus said. When you first told me money was missing, I should have investigated. I should have believed you. Instead, I gaslit you. I made you feel crazy. And while I was doing that, She was out there hurting other people too. If I'd listened to you, if I'd taken you seriously, maybe we could have stopped her sooner. Marcus, you didn't know. I should have known, he interrupted. You're my father. You raised me. You were there for me my entire life. And when you needed me to be there for you, I failed. I chose a woman I'd known for 5 years over a man who'd known me for 35. That's on me. I heard the pain in his voice, the genuine remorse, and I realized something. Holding on to my anger wasn't protecting me anymore. It was just keeping both of us stuck. I forgive you, I said. What? I forgive you, Marcus. You made mistakes. You hurt me. But you've also owned up to it. You've tried to make amends. And you've shown me you understand what you did wrong. That's all I can ask for. He was quiet for a long moment. I don't deserve that. Maybe not, I said, but I'm giving it to you anyway. Not for your sake. For mine. Because I don't want to spend whatever time I have left being angry at my son. Thank you, he whispered. Dad, thank you. Just promise me one thing. Anything. Never make me doubt myself again. No matter what. If I say something's wrong, you believe me. Even if you don't understand it. Even if it seems impossible. You believe me. I promise, he said. I swear on my life, I will never do that to you again. 6 months later, life developed a new rhythm. Marcus came over for dinner every Sunday. At first, it was awkward. We were both trying too hard, both hyper-aware of the elephant in the room. But gradually, we found our footing. We talked about his job, about my doctor's appointments, about the garden, and whether the tomatoes would come in this year. We didn't talk about Patricia much. She'd moved back to her mother's place 2 states away. The divorce was finalized. Marcus told me once that she'd tried to contact him, asking for another chance, claiming she was in therapy and getting help. He didn't respond. I thought about her sometimes. Wondered if she ever felt genuine remorse, or if she was just sorry she got caught. Wondered if she was still out there finding new victims, or if she'd really changed. But mostly, I tried not to think about her at all. David checked in regularly, mostly by email. He'd set up a system where I had extra protections on all my accounts, 2-factor authentication, alerts for any unusual activity, regular statements sent directly to his office as well as mine. Belt and suspenders, he called it. I called it peace of mind. I even started dating, which surprised everyone including myself. Her name is Beverly, and I met her at the support group. She's 70, sharp as a tack, and has a similar story. Her son's business partner convinced her to invest her savings in a guaranteed opportunity that turned out to be a scam. We go to dinner once a week. We talk about books, politics, our grandchildren. We don't talk about our past traumas every time we see each other, but we understand each other in a way that's hard to explain to someone who hasn't been through it. You trust me with your wallet yet? She joked once after we'd been seeing each other for a few months. Getting there, I said, and we both laughed. Dark humor, maybe, but sometimes you have to laugh. People ask me sometimes if I'm angry. If I hate Patricia for what she did. The truth is more complicated than that. Am I angry? Sometimes. When my joints ache, and I remember all those days I was in pain taking fake medication. When I think about her hand reaching into my nightstand drawer, casual as anything. When I remember the gaslighting, the manipulation, the systematic way she made me doubt my own mind. But mostly I'm sad. Sad that my son married someone capable of such cruelty. Sad that I spent months living in my own home feeling unsafe and confused. Sad that there are other people out there right now going through what I went through, maybe without the resources or support to fight back. The support group helped me understand something important. Elder financial exploitation is one of the most underreported crimes in the country. For every case like mine that gets exposed, there are dozens that don't. Victims are often too ashamed to report it, too afraid of destroying family relationships, too confused about what even happened. And the perpetrators know this. They count on it. That's why I started speaking publicly about my experience. Just locally at first. I gave a talk at the senior center, shared my story at a community meeting. Then a local newspaper ran an article, and suddenly I was getting calls from other organizations wanting me to speak. I talk about the warning signs. The isolation tactics, the gaslighting, the way abusers make you doubt your own perception of reality. And I talk about the security cameras, about documentation, about trusting your instincts. After one of my talks, an elderly woman came up to me with tears in her eyes. "My daughter has been taking money from me," she said quietly. I knew it, but I thought I was going crazy. Everyone kept telling me I was just forgetful. But I'm not. I'm not crazy. No, I told her, "You're not crazy, and you're not alone." I gave her David's contact information and the number for Adult Protective Services. I don't know what happened after that, but I hope she got the help she needed. That's what keeps me going. The idea that maybe sharing my story helps someone else recognize what's happening to them. That maybe it prevents even one person from going through what I went through. Patricia thought stealing from an old man would be easy. She thought I'd be too confused, too trusting, or too weak to fight back. She thought that because I was elderly, I was automatically vulnerable. She was wrong about a lot of things. She forgot that being 73 doesn't mean being stupid. It doesn't mean being helpless. It doesn't mean being incapable of learning new technology or fighting back when wronged. She forgot that I'd survived 73 years on this planet by being smart, resourceful, and unwilling to be anyone's victim. I'd built a career, raised a son, maintained a marriage for 45 years, buried my wife, and kept going. I'd navigated decades of life's challenges and come out the other side. She forgot about my security cameras. But more than that, she forgot that even old men have dignity worth fighting for. Those cameras cost me less than $200 total. The cloud storage is $9.99 a month. Small prices to pay for proof, for evidence, for validation, for the ability to say, "I'm not crazy. This really happened. Here's the proof." But the cameras were just tools. The real weapon was my refusal to be gaslit into submission. My insistence on trusting my own mind even when everyone around me was telling me I was wrong. That's what I want people to understand. The cameras helped. Yes, the documentation helped. David's legal expertise helped. But none of it would have mattered if I'd let Patricia and Marcus convince me I was losing my faculties. I'm still in my house. The house Diane and I bought 30 years ago. The house where we raised Marcus, where we celebrated holidays, where we built a life together. Patricia tried to take it from me. Not literally, but she tried to make it feel unsafe, tried to make me doubt whether I could live independently. She failed. I'm still taking my real medications, the ones my doctor prescribed, the ones that actually work. I'm managing my pain properly now, and while it's not perfect, degenerative conditions never are, it's so much better than those months when I was taking fake pills and wondering why nothing helped. And I'm still standing. Not just physically, though that too, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually. I'm still here, still myself, still whole despite what she tried to do to me. That's my revenge. Not some dramatic confrontation, though we had that too. Not legal destruction, though I could have pursued criminal charges. My revenge is simply continuing to live well, safely, and on my own terms. Patricia is dealing with her own consequences now. Her marriage destroyed, her reputation ruined, at least among anyone who knows the truth. Marcus tells me she lost her job when her employer found out about the divorce and the circumstances around it. She's back with her mother, supposedly in therapy, supposedly getting help. I hope that's true, not for her sake, but for the sake of anyone else she might encounter. I hope she gets the help she needs to stop hurting people. But that's not my problem anymore. My problem is living my life, taking care of myself, maintaining my boundaries, and never again letting anyone make me doubt my own reality. It's been nearly a year now since Patricia left. Marcus and I have settled into a new normal. He's dating someone new, a woman named Catherine who seems kind and genuine. I've met her twice, and both times she treated me with respect. Not the performative kind Patricia used to dish out, but genuine respect. She asks me questions and actually listens to the answers. "Your dad's great." I overheard her tell Marcus once. "You can tell he's been through something, but he's not bitter about it. That takes strength." Marcus just nodded. I don't think he fully trusts his own judgment anymore, when it comes to people. That's something he's working through in therapy. As for me, I'm doing better than I have in years. The pain is managed. The house is mine again, really mine, not just legally but emotionally. I wake up in the morning and don't have to wonder if someone's been in my room while I slept. I don't have to worry about money disappearing or medications being tampered with. I can just live. The support group continues to meet every other Tuesday. We become something more than just a collection of victims sharing stories. We become friends, advocates for each other. Margaret started a petition to require better screening for in-home caregivers. Raymond has been working with local law enforcement to train them on recognizing elder exploitation. Helen's been collecting resources and creating a handbook for seniors about protecting themselves. And me, I keep telling my story. Keep reminding people that trust is precious and shouldn't be exploited. Keep encouraging others to trust their instincts. Document everything, and never let anyone make them doubt their own minds. Sometimes I think about what would have happened if I hadn't installed those cameras. If I'd let Patricia and Marcus convince me I was losing my memory. Would I have ended up in a facility somewhere, declared incompetent, while Patricia had power of attorney and drained my accounts? Probably. That's how these things often end. The victim gets labeled as confused or senile. The abuser takes control, and by the time anyone figures out what's happening, it's too late. I got lucky. I had the resources to fight back, the wherewithal to document what was happening, and family members like David who believed me and helped me take action. Not everyone has that. That's why this work matters. I wrote Patricia a letter once, about 6 months after she left. I never sent it, but writing it helped me process everything that happened. I keep it in my desk drawer, and sometimes when I'm having a hard day, I read it again to remind myself of how far I've come. Patricia, I've been trying to understand why you did what you did. Was it just gambling? Was it something deeper? Some resentment toward me, toward Marcus, toward your own life? Did you ever feel genuine affection for us? Or were we always just marks to you? I'll probably never know the answers to those questions. And I'm learning that's okay. I don't need to understand your motivations to move forward with my life. What you did to me was cruel. Not just the stealing, though that was bad enough. But the gaslighting, the systematic way you made me doubt my own mind, that was torture. Do you understand that? You made me feel like I was losing myself. There were nights I lay awake wondering if I really was going senile. If I really was becoming the confused old man you were painting me as. If maybe I should accept being moved to a facility, having my independence taken away. Because I couldn't trust my own perceptions anymore. That's what you did to me. And I want you to know that while I've forgiven Marcus, while I'm working on forgiving myself for not acting sooner, I don't know if I'll ever forgive you. Maybe that makes me bitter. Maybe that means you still have power over me. But I don't think so. I think it just means I'm honest about the harm you caused and unwilling to minimize it. I hope you get help. I hope you stop hurting people. But mostly, I hope I never have to think about you again. Walter, I never sent it because I realized she didn't deserve even that much of my energy. She didn't deserve to know how deeply she'd affected me or how hard I'd worked to recover. She'd already taken enough from me. When I give talks now, people always want to know about the cameras. What brand did I buy? How hard were they to install? How much do they cost? I tell them the practical details. Yes, they were easy to set up. Yes, cloud storage is worth it. Yes, you can access the footage from your phone or tablet. But I also try to explain something more important. The cameras weren't just about catching Patricia in the act. They were about reclaiming my sense of reality. When someone gaslights you, when they systematically try to make you doubt your own perceptions, you start to lose faith in yourself. You second-guess everything. Did that really happen? Am I remembering correctly? Maybe I am confused. Maybe I am losing my mind. The cameras gave me proof. Irrefutable, time-stamped, video proof that what I experienced was real. That the money really was being stolen. That my medications really were being tampered with. That I wasn't crazy. In a way, those cameras saved my sanity as much as they saved my money. But what if I install cameras and nothing's happening? Someone asked after one of my talks. What if I'm wrong? Then you're wrong, I said. And that's okay. Better to check and be wrong than to not check and be right. Your peace of mind is worth the $100 those cameras cost. The thing is, though, most people who have that gnawing feeling that something's wrong aren't wrong. Their instincts are telling them something, and they should listen. Looking back, I can identify the exact moment when I decided to stop being a victim and start taking action. It wasn't when I found the first missing money. It wasn't even when Patricia and Marcus sat me down and threatened to have me evaluated for incompetence. It was that moment in the backyard, sitting by Diane's bird feeder, when the tablet pinged with the motion alert. I could have ignored it, could have told myself I was invading their privacy, that I was being paranoid, that good people don't spy on their family members. But I opened that app, I watched that footage, and I saw the truth. That was the moment I chose myself. Chose my own well-being over their comfort. Chose my own perception of reality over their manipulation. And that choice changed everything. I tell people this story not because I want credit for being brave or smart. I tell it because I want them to know that they can make that choice too. They can trust themselves. They can take action. They can fight back against people who are exploiting them, even if those people are family, especially if those people are family. I have a small sign in my bedroom now, right next to where the camera is hidden in the bookend. Beverly gave it to me. It says, "Trust yourself." Simple words, but they mean everything. I see that sign every morning when I wake up and every night before I go to sleep. It reminds me that my perception of reality is valid, that my instincts are worth trusting, that I have the right to feel safe in my own home. Patricia thought she could take that from me. She thought she could make me doubt myself so thoroughly that I'd accept whatever narrative she fed me. She thought being elderly made me vulnerable in ways that would make me an easy target. She was wrong. I'm 73 years old. I'm dealing with a degenerative condition that causes chronic pain. I'm a widower living alone in a house that sometimes feels too big. By some measures, I am vulnerable. But vulnerable doesn't mean helpless. It doesn't mean weak. It doesn't mean unable to fight back when wronged. Patricia forgot that. Or maybe she never learned it in the first place. She forgot about my security cameras. But more importantly, she forgot about my dignity, my intelligence, my fundamental human right to be treated with respect. She forgot that even old men are still men, still people, still worthy of basic decency. That was her mistake. And it's a mistake I'll never let anyone make with me again. I'm still in my house. I'm still taking my real medications. I'm still living on my own terms. I'm still standing. And I'm not alone. I have Marcus, who's learned from his mistakes and is trying to be better. I have Beverly, who understands what I've been through because she's been through it too. I have David, who showed up when I needed help and made sure I got justice. I have the support group, 12 people who meet every other Tuesday and remind each other that we're survivors, not victims. I have my security cameras, still running, still uploading footage to the cloud, still proving every day that my perception of reality is valid and trustworthy. And I have myself, the Walter who survived 73 years of life, the Walter who lost his wife and kept going, the Walter who was exploited and fought back, the Walter who refused to let anyone make him doubt his own mind. That Walter is still here, still strong, still standing. And that's my revenge, not destruction, not punishment, not even justice really. Just a simple act of continuing to exist, to thrive, to live well despite what Patricia tried to do to me. She thought she could break me. She forgot I'm unbreakable. And I'll never let her, or anyone else, forget that again. Never again.